give you a note session of a telephone, please? I think we all have lucky and just place it wherever you like, all right?
We're connected first.
I've been asked to test a microphone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Before we begin and hear the first song, I do want to reiterate, there is no right or wrong way to do this. We are doing this with love and sending our friend on his way. Thank you, Ina. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, and I extend a very warm welcome to Owen's wife, Edwina, adored children, Kayleigh, Oisín and Caolan, cherished grandson, Adam, precious foster daughter, Mela, who is joining us from California, his loving sister, Deirdre, brother-in-law, but like a real-life brother, Liam, his adored niece, Aifric, nephews, Naoise and Oran, and who has travelled from Canada or on his way, I believe. Grandparents, grand-nephews, River and Gabriel, his extended family, and very dear and close friends, of which I know there are many of you gathered here today. I also want to acknowledge two very special family members whom I met on Thursday with the saddest of eyes, Bilbo and Panda. They say a dog is a man's best friend, and these two faithful companions are now learning to navigate a world without Owen's reassuring presence beside them. We gather here today, and whilst there are questions that may never be answered and hurts that words cannot fully heal, we do not need to solve that today. Instead, we remember a life that mattered, a father whose guidance shaped his family, a husband whose presence filled a home, a brother, an uncle, a granddad, a treasured loyal friend, whose story was made up of countless ordinary moments that become extraordinary because they were shared by those we love. Today, I invite each of you to cherish those moments and to remember the gift of Owen's life was to so many. Think of the laughter, the conversations, the kindness, the adventures, the storytelling, music, helping hand, and the quiet moments that made him special as he was. Throughout this ceremony, we will honour Owen and the many chapters of his life. Through the symbols lovingly chosen by his family, we will hear poems recited, and many family members and close friends will share their own memories of Owen. Each story will be different, yet together they will paint the picture of a man who has quietly left his mark on so many lives. The music we will hear today has been chosen from artists Owen loved and will be beautifully performed by his treasured friends. The photographs displayed in the hall capture a glimpse of the life so generously lived and so freely shared with you all. I will now invite Edwina to light a candle to symbolise Owen's life on this earth. May this flame remind us of the life filled with love, generosity, music, friendship, family and adventure. And just as a single flame continues to give light long after it's first lit, may Owen's values and spirit continue to shine brightly in the hearts of all who love and knew him well. Thank you, Edwina. I now have 3 microphones. I'm going to light another candle myself, and I'm lighting that for us all, for the burdens we carry, the crosses we carry, and for the pain that we all have in our hearts. And that by lighting this candle that we will regain the clarity, the love that we need, and the support that we need in the challenges ahead. A life well lived can often be told through the things that mattered most. Today, Eoin's family have chosen a number of special symbols to place alongside his casket. Each one reflects a different part of the man they knew and loved. Firstly, I invite Johnny to bring a photograph of Eoin sitting on top of the Himalayas mountain, a journey they shared together. As many of you know, Eoin's love of hill walking and mountain climbing took him to many remarkable places. His adventures brought him to Nepal, K2 Base Camp, the hills of Ireland, Carrauntoohil, and countless other trails. But perhaps the walks that meant the most were those through Glenaa, the place his beloved mother came from, a place that always holds a special place in his heart. Next, I invite his grandson Adam, brings forward a handcrafted wooden jewellery box, beautifully made from elm, Eoin's favourite wood. Eoin loved nothing more than spending time in his workshop, creating with his hands and sharing his passion for woodworking with his children. In time, he proudly passed those skills on to his grandson, Adam, who now studies woodwork himself, a lasting legacy passed from one generation to the next. Like all gifted craftspeople, Eoin believed the beauty was in the details. This exquisite box even contains a hidden compartment for jewellery, treasure keepsakes, private notes, or perhaps for today's parents, the perfect place to hide the modern mobile phone from curious little hands. This box is far more than a piece of craftsmanship. It's a reminder that greatest things we leave behind are not always the things we make with our hands, but the skills and passions and values we pass along the way. Now, I invite Mike, his work colleague, brings forward the old telephone from Aircom. This simple object represents far more than a job. It reflects 37 years of dedication, skill, and service. Eoin was part of a generation of Aircom men who were known and trusted in every community. They were the ones who kept people connected through storms, breakdowns, long days on the road. Long before mobile phones and the internet became part of our everyday life, their work mattered, and it was done with pride. Eoin took great pride in that role. He was dependable, knowledgeable, and respected by those he worked with. The friendships he formed along the way, including with Mike, were lasting ones, built on shared experiences, hard work, and mutual respect. For many here today, that familiar ring of the telephone carries memories of time when connection meant something different. And Eoin was one of the people who made those connections possible. Tom now brings forward 2 books that perfectly capture 2 of Eoin's greatest passions. Eoin had a remarkable collection of over 1,000 books, reflecting a lifelong love of reading and learning. His interests were wide-ranging, but he had a particular passion for history, especially Irish history, as well as cooking. The first book is Discovery Kerry by T.J. Barrington, one of his favourites. It speaks of his deep interest in history, storytelling, and his love of place. It was a book he often returned to, and one whose stories he delighted in sharing with family and friends. The second is The Spices of the World cookbook by McCormick. Eoin may well have started by following the recipe, but those who knew him best will tell you he rarely finished it that way. Before long, he would have added his own ideas, his own experience, and of course, his own special twist. Finally, his grandnephew, River, brings forward Eoin's beloved walking sticks, affectionately known as the Ballards. Lovingly handcrafted by Eoin himself, one is finished with copper facets, which has joined Eoin on his journey, while the other is adorned with iron rings. These walking sticks accompanied him on countless hikes, mountain climbs, and adventures, becoming trusted companions on every trail he explored. Eoin named the Ballards after Balor, the one-eyed giant from Irish mythology, famed for his powerful eye. It was a name that reflected both Eoin's love of Irish history, folklore, his wonderful sense of character, and storytelling. Like so many things Eoin created, they were never just walking sticks. They carried a story of their own. Surrounding these symbols are fresh flowers from Deirdre's own garden, together with flowers from Deirdre's garden, reflecting another passion that brought them great joy: his love of gardening, nature, and horticulture. Together, these symbols tell the story of a man who loved the mountains, loved creating with his hands, loved learning, loved sharing stories, loved cooking, loved the outdoors, and above all, loved the people with whom he shared his life. Thank you, Sam. I will now invite Eoin's daughter, Kayleigh, who will recite the poem Tiernan Og, sons Oisín and Caolan, who have their own words.
I'm just going to read a poem. Tá Tiernan Og Caolan tí, Tír all and Trina Kayleigh. Lucht Kehra Kosher Sul na Slí, Gambroga Orha na Lena, Gambirla Aka na Grilga. Ach Fasan Clocka Gach Drum, so Tír Trina Kayleigh. Is louter Tenga Caolan tí, Norhug Fa Con Esop. Is tá sé siúd so Creanish. Tá Kirk Aun, is all Shikeen, is Laka Rien Moleach. Is Garam Gordov, mar namshe is Tír, her Dramnock le Gachena, is Catter Crew na Grena. So dinna here, tá bach Dramal, is unta see on Taule. Queen Lore, Bucli, Shan Hati tu, is Trumpa Balb Neta. Is Kittle Bon Margaon, is Aun a Hagan Tinkery, Gnefa Trina Kayleigh. Tá Gaeilge le Caolan tí, is Bidéirí Rucht Derka. Her Coolgach tí in Erin, but Valam ve her Caolan tí, sa Dearhucht go Déanach, go fecin aun Cuairt Galí, and Talav sin Aesop, is sé an Fuca Lenta. That was Tiernan Og.
I'd just like to thank all of you for coming today. Clearly, Eoin meant a lot to a lot of people. Just seeing some of the characters coming through, it was a very diverse group of people that Eoin knew. Whether you knew him from him fixing your phone, taking a swarm of bees from your house, or just having a conversation over a pint about history or politics or anything. We all loved him, and he was a great man. A man of small stature who had a giant character. To me, first and foremost, he was a father. He taught me a lot, different ways of living. And I remember growing up, we would be doing multiplication tables and stuff in school, and I would come home and he would teach me about powers and roots and physics or basic electronics because he saw my love of knowledge and he nurtured it. He was a great man for working with his hands. He was a carpenter, he was a stonemason, he was whatever he wanted to be. From him I learned how to work with my hands and have a love of work when you look at your finished product afterwards. He made many a lovely project that we will have to remember him by. A funny little story was when we were younger, he used to hate the TV. He'd always like us reading books. So it turned into a cat and mouse game of him hiding the TV on us and us finding his hiding places, which then escalated to him cutting the plug off the TV, forcing us to learn how to wire a plug. He taught me a love of nature, always bring us on walks, up the mountains and across the bogs. We used to run down mountains together, and it taught me a lot of a love of nature. From a young age, he had me and the brother and all of us pulling rhododendron plants anytime we saw them. He instilled a deep respect for Irish history, culture, and the language. He had more books than most libraries. I'm going to give him a final send-off in Irish, partly because he loved the language and mostly because none of people understand me. Owen, Maher, Mamuntor, Moleach. Le gra ma credith and creek ma sail. Atlashin Tom Creebrista. Big Brown, Mealtuk, agus Afala, Urum, Tan La Fan Fain Boss. Niliscum came Boher will to Erinish, Docus can Irish Elat. Fan of Valak, Oisín Cahuela, agus Gakur Atomic, Oberlim Alav, Nutomic Shul, Harness Slate, and on Portak, back to Imamion. Slán on.
To say it's been difficult to find the words would be putting it lightly, but we'll give it a go. I wrote things down, but it's not the most coherent. Growing up with Owen as a father was a dream come true. He was like a childhood god to us. There's nothing he couldn't create for us. With a little bit of imagination, a little bit of guttering pipe and a few bits of wood suddenly became a racetrack for our toy cars. He taught us appreciation for the natural world from a young age. Like one of my favourite things used to be going to find natural springs, whether it be at the end of a housing estate or wherever, just to collect some natural spring water. And as I progress into the teenage years, you go through that period where you think there's no possible way your parents could be cool. But between my own friends of my siblings, and friends of my father telling me how cool he was, he's quickly become to realise that they might actually be right. He was always at hand to help with anything. If you had a job to do, the more obscure the job, the better. The more obscure the tool, he always seemed to have it for some reason or another. But he always did have the time and was always happy to help, always happy to share. From his wealth of both incredibly useful and incredibly useless knowledge, he had it all. There's a saying that when a man dies, a library burns to the ground, and I don't think that could be more fitting for Owen. Just to finish on a slightly more positive note, I'm going to share a funny story from when he visited me in Vietnam. Him, Kayleigh, and my nephew Adam were staying in a hotel near enough to where I was living. And it's quite a nice hotel, which wouldn't really be Owen's style at all. But in the hotel, there was a doorman. Obviously, his job is to open the door. Owen didn't take a liking to that at all. And it'd get to the point where Owen would be walking up the door, your man would see him, they'd both take off into more of a brisk walk. I think eventually they started running. Until the point where the hotel worker actually had to take him aside and said, please will you stop, this is actually my job. And just to say, slán go fóill agus go n-éirí an bóthar leat. Thank you.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal I'm making for you? It's you and me. And if I only could make a deal with God, I'd get him to swap our places. Come running up that road, come running up that hill, come running up that building. Come running up that road, come running up that hill, come running up that building. Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal I'm making? It's you. It's you and me. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God. I'd get him to swap our places. Come running up that road, come running up that hill, no problem.
Thank you, Joan. Over the last few days, I've gained stories or insights, and this is only a small reflection because there's many to follow me that have definitely more weight and knowledge than I do. Eoin Michael Donohue was born on the 30th of November 58 to Patrick and Mai Donohue. The family lived in Muckross, where Patrick was head gardener on the Muckross estate. It seems only fitting then that the beautiful flowers surrounding Eoin today are a gentle nod to his father and to the love of gardens that would have become such an important part of Eoin's own life. 18 months later, his little sister Deirdre arrived, completing their little family of 4. Sadly, when Patrick passed away, Mai was left to raise Eoin and Deirdre alone after they moved to Park Road. She did so with enormous strength, love and determination, giving her children the secure foundation that reminded them throughout their lives. In later years, when Willie Carson took over from their father as head gardener, he found a book diary that his father had written, which became a treasure book for Eoin to have as a precious connection to his father, his family history, and the legacy that begun long before him. Eoin attended the SEM, where his lifelong love of woodwork first took root. It was there that his appreciation for craftsmanship began, but it was also where his love of languages developed. He had a particular interest in Irish and Latin, and was fascinated by the Latin names of plants, combining his curiosity for the language with his love of horticulture. The fascination never left him. In later years, Eoin continued to learn Irish, determined to deepen his knowledge of the language, and through it strengthen the connection to history, culture and heritage. And it was lovely to see his children speaking Irish in memory. When I visited the family home in Knockeenduff this week, I realised very quickly that Eoin wasn't simply someone who enjoyed making things. He was a creator. Everywhere you looked, there was evidence of his imagination, his craftsmanship and his respect for nature. His home wasn't just a house. It was a reflection of who he was, every inch hand-built by his own skillful hands. His workshop told one story, his gardens told another, and then there were the books, thousands of them. Books on history, world history, different cultures and places. I believe if you asked Eoin about almost any historical event, not only would he have had the book on the subject, he'd happily spend the next half an hour telling you all about it. Also, in his cave of knowledge stands thousands of CDs, cassettes, IPs, featuring the vast interest and love of world music. The kids recalled anything could be playing, from reggae, trad, African, you name it, but a few. But he crossed the line at the screaming Spice Girls, as Kayleigh well knows. While sitting at the kitchen table, I was struck by the natural surroundings. Edwina showed me images of when they first moved to Knockeenduff, in how they had their wedding celebration on the front lawn and continued to rear their children. I asked the lads, looking back, it must have felt like a heaven, playing out there as youngsters. Indeed, that's what I saw. Kayleigh, Oisín and Caolan recalled their home was at times like a kid's playground. Eoin would create and build obstacle courses and have a paddling pool at the end of the course for added fun and adventure. The boys recalled how he would use a downpipe to create a racetrack for their toy cars to slide and drive through. Simpler times, but now treasured and lasting memories. They recalled how Eoin decided to make a treehouse in a 30-foot holly tree, but it was built so high without a ladder, and no doubt prickly to get up to, they would never adventure up. Eoin's days at Aircom gave him the ability to skillfully climb the tree, maybe not so for his children. In later years, he built a tree house for Adam, which was enjoyed for many years and still stands to this day. Eoin had a keen interest in cooking and would cook stews, curries, and his love of lamb, which he would have often acquired from his neighbour as a barter system for renting his field. A loyal exchange that united them as neighbours and friends. He grew his own potatoes and vegetables, and Edwina looked after the tunnel out the back. When pizza was made, there was a great sense of pride that it was genuinely made from scratch, from their hands and surrounding of the kitchen table. One Christmas, Oisín recalls, where Eoin made goose with rhubarb tart as dessert, which Eoin said did not need sugar. I am led to believe that the adventures of ways of Eoin on this occasion did not go down well, and it returned to traditional Christmas turkey the next year. Eoin loved music, no matter if it was in Courtney's Electric Picnic, and on one occasion when Kayleigh and her friends were going to Prodigy in Cork, Eoin and his friend Niall Walsh wanted to go too. When Kayleigh arrived at the bus, all her pals were standing outside. She asked, "Why are you not on the bus?" They replied, "There's two lads sitting down the back and they think they're the drug squad." Sure enough, when Kayleigh checked it out, she said, "The lads, that's my dad. Get in and get on with it." Eoin worked in Aircom for 37 years, and we can all fondly remember the importance Aircom played in our lives. These boys were men about town, and they had a huge job to do keeping us all connected. I spoke with a colleague, John O'Neill, who fondly recalls Eoin's time at Aircom as a wonderful colleague who would never leave you down. If you were stuck on a pole or out of your depth, he would come to rescue you without fanfare or accolade and pull you through it. Eoin worked in the exchange side of the business, where you would put a system into hotels and businesses. John recalls he was a friend to everyone, a large measure of the kind and gentle nature. Like many of his generation, Eoin wasn't entirely convinced about mobile phones and that they were a good thing. He often joked that all new technology and the radiation it gave off couldn't possibly be good for you. Yet, as his family will tell you, he quietly embraced the smartphone in his own way. Before long, he had become an enthusiastic member of the Facebook groups dedicated to old derelict homes of Ireland and the beautiful wrought iron gates of Ireland, perfectly combining his love of history, craftsmanship, and discovering the stories of hidden old values and treasures. It seems that in the end, his curiosity proved stronger than his caution, and the smartphone earned its place after all. Eoin also developed an extraordinary talent for restoring old staircases, patiently stripping away years of paint to reveal the beautiful timber beneath. Like so much else in his life, he found satisfaction in recovering what was already there rather than replacing it. Alongside his first cousin and great friend, Johnny, Eoin explored many parts of the world. They also shared a love of simpler journeys close to home, often walking together locally through Glenagh, where Eoin's mum was from. Paths that held their own quiet meaning and connection. 10 years ago, one memorable trip took them to a beautiful state of Kerala in southern India to visit their friend Timmy Groove O'Sullivan. They explored the breathtaking Western Ghats, wandered through the famous tea plantations around Munnar, and as always found great joy in discovering new landscapes, people and cultures. Another unforgettable adventure brought them to Nepal, where they spent several weeks staying with their friend Ben. Halfway through the trip, poor Johnny developed altitude sickness, bringing their trekking plans to an abrupt end. Fortunately, there was a rescue by a helicopter. While it wasn't quite the ending they had planned, Eoin couldn't help but be appreciative of the incredible bird's eye view they were treated to as they flew over and above Kathmandu and the majestic Himalayan mountains. Eoin was delighted, and he could see the benefit of an emergency helicopter rescue as an unexpected sightseeing opportunity. And whilst the last few years may have been tricky for Eoin to navigate and understand, we must now believe that Eoin is flying high above us all with the same peace and smile he had whilst flying freely through the Himalayan mountains, reunited with his mum and dad and his very close and dear friends gone before him. We ask Eoin to light the path for you all, show you signs that he is with you, and give you comfort in the days and weeks ahead. If we learn anything from Eoin's life here with us, it's to live freely, kindly, and so giving of yourself to others. Thank you, Eoin, for the journey.
Sun is slowly sinking down. The moon is slowly rising. That means the soul world must still be spinning round. And I still love you. So close your eyes. You can close your eyes, it's alright. And I don't know no love songs. I can't sing the blues anymore. But I can sing this song, and you can sing this song when I'm gone. It won't be long before another day. We're gonna have a good time. Nothing's gonna take that time away. You can stay as long as you like. So close your eyes. You can close your eyes, it's alright. And I don't know no love song. I can't sing the blues anymore. But I can sing this song. You can sing this song when I'm gone.
Thanks, guys. I know that's hard. I will now invite his wonderful sister, Deirdre, to say her own words.
Eoin had so many chapters in his life, so I'll begin with the early days. Our summers were spent up the woods, as we called it. We'd come back for dinner in the evening. They were such carefree times. The Munster finals and the Easter car rallies were always exciting. We had a big field behind our house where people parked their cars, and we thought we were making a fortune collecting the money. We'd sit on the front wall shouting at everyone passing by. We were regulars in Bird's Bazaar from about the age of 8 and quickly learned how to bang the slot machines with our little hips to extract the coins, which we promptly spent on more slot machines in the casino. Sometimes they'd catch us by the scruff of the neck and they'd throw us out. Eventually they installed alarms and changed the machines to tokens instead of money, and that put an end to our little scheme. We had fierce but innocent sibling rivalry. As children, we even had a line down the middle of the kitchen table to separate our sides, and neither of us was allowed to cross it. Eoin was bossy, opinionated, and as bright as a button. My only advantage over him was my spelling. He was hopeless, nor could he sing. But if anyone asked him to sing, he'd happily sing, "I feel pretty, oh so pretty and witty and wise." And we'd all roll around laughing. He was so bad that he was good. His nickname was Precon, the Irish for crow. In our teenage years, music became a huge part of Eoin's life. My youth club friends, Lourdes and Katrina, would come down and we'd sneak up to his room to listen to his eclectic music collection when he wasn't there. He loved Van Morrison's Astral Weeks, Bob Marley, Ry Cooder, and John Martin's Solid Air. And then Bob Dylan, Desire, was released in 1976. We'd be up there for hours. I think we probably got on his nerves because he was so much more worldly than we were. He was a natty dresser and he was known as the first boot boy in town. One night, Katrina asked if she could borrow his new jumper for a gig. I agreed, but I warned her that I had to be back before Eoin came home. Unfortunately, Eoin arrived unexpectedly in the town hall, where the horselips were playing. He spotted it straight away. He strode up to her and demanded she take it off there and then, leaving the poor girl standing there in nothing but her t-shirt in the winter. His clothes were his prized possession. He was always bopping to music. He just loved dancing too. Eoin had a boat on the lake and we'd often row over to Glenna with Congar and Mikey and Hawley, where my mother had been born and lived until the late 1920s. He loved walking and heard it from my mum, and on Sundays, as we didn't have a car, we'd walk to Tiernabowl to my uncle's Jack or Paddy, or to town to Uncle Michael or Auntie Peg's in College Square. We were surrounded by so many cousins on Mom's side, and so envious when Uncle Dan came back from Chicago and his kids had cool chopper bikes. He had a love of winemaking from an early age. Demi-John corks would regularly pop under the stairs, driving Mom mad as the wine went everywhere. Many evenings were spent in Mom's sitting room with Jimbob, sipping wine and solving the world's problems. He was Mom's favourite, and many a time she'd say to me, "Why can't you be just like your brother?" The truth is, he got away with murder. Even after a night out, when he'd be feeling the worse for wear, he'd tell Mom he'd got a bad pint, and she believed him. In 1976, Eoin started with the P&T, which later became Telecom. Hawley, Lucy and himself were the only two town boys who got it, so they were fierce proud. Around that time, his independence grew too. His record collection expanded. Hawley bought a Renault 4 and Eoin bought a motorbike, much to Mom's horror. They travelled together to festivals, Greece and London, and a story I just heard this morning from Michael Buckley was in 1979, the Pope was due to come to Ireland in October. So the lads thought it was a better idea to leave the country. So himself and Michael Buckley and an O'Connell boy, Michael had an old battered van, and they went off to Paris, off to France, and then up to Paris, where the engine promptly blew up. So there'll be more to that story later. I'll have to get the rest. I'll have to try and remember it. He was a hippie at heart and never materialistic. He loved the vernacular, traditional skills, stone walls, settle beds and dressers, many of which he made himself. He made a beautiful wooden crib for Maggie and Eugene from the Sugaun for their daughter Eileen. Owen later travelled to India with Lucy, and then later again to Thailand with Edwina, Kayleigh and Oisín. Any skills he didn't have, he learned. He became the master of self-sufficiency, and he hated waste. He first honed his carpentry skills with Mikey Gallivan in the workshop in Mom's Garden, and later with Liam, whose friendship meant so much to him throughout his life. He rarely had a bad word to say about anyone, and the challenges of the last 2 or 3 years should never negate the wonderful, rich and varied life he had. I hope now you're exploring new horizons. Owen, we'll miss you so much.
Well done, Deirdre. It was fabulous. I wanted to be in your gang. I now invite niece Aifric for her own words.
Anyone who knew Owen knew what a gentle soul he was. He had the little bounce in his step, was always full of energy, and was happiest when he was busy doing something. He was one of those people that nobody ever had a bad word to say about. And what couldn't he do? If he decided to make something, he'd figure it out. Whether it was jam, chutney, giving you bags of apples, honey back when he kept bees, clocks, jewellery, or bird feeders, he was always making something and always sharing it with everyone else. It's okay. Just to hear you. Oh, yeah. He was also one of those people who just seemed to know a bit about everything. Whether it was the history of old Killarney, plants and flowers, or some random fact you'd never heard before, Owen always had something interesting to tell you. He loved chatting about the things that interested him, and you always came away having learned something new. Some of my favourite childhood memories are of Owen bringing me, Kayleigh, Oisín and Caolan up to the ferry port, telling us mythical stories along the way. We also spent plenty of time in the car with him, singing songs at the top of our lungs. The only one I can definitely remember now is Yellow Submarine, and another one about a wagon that I can't quite remember. I'm sure if Owen were here, he'd be able to tell me exactly what it was. He also got the ball rolling when it came to teaching me how to drive. Now, to be fair, he wasn't exactly the calmest driving instructor. I think he spent most of the journey gripping the passenger door for dear life, ready to jump out at any second. "Watch out," he'd roar, even if whatever I was supposed to be watching out for was still half a mile down the road. Somehow, despite all the shouting, I eventually passed my test. And even after I had my licence, he never stopped looking out for me. Over the years, I don't know how many times he came to the rescue when one of my cars decided to give up. I'd ring him, and before I'd even finish explaining what had happened, he'd say, "Where are you? I'll be there in 10 minutes. When he arrived, he'd get stuck in straight away. As he was jump-starting the car or trying to sort whatever had gone wrong, he'd point at the battery, the jump leads, or whatever part he was fixing and say, "Now, Aifric, you should know how to do this, it's important." I'd stand there nodding away, but to be honest, it was all going in one ear and out the other. A couple of years ago, on our way home from Puck Fair, I got a flat tyre. Of course, I hadn't a clue what to do. Straight away, he was asking me, "Have you got a wheel brace? Have you this? Have you that?" Naturally, I had none of it. I got a lecture that day that every car should have a proper wheel brace, and from then on I was under strict instructions to make sure it did. Needless to say, I haven't been caught with that one since. Every time I'd see him, he'd ask, "How is my favourite niece?" And every single time I'd remind him, "I'm your only niece." We'd have the same laugh every time. The truth is, he always called me his favourite niece, but he was my favourite uncle too. But my own boys came along and they adored him from the very beginning, and he was so good to them. That's just who Eoin was. He always had time for people. Looking back now, I don't think Eoin was ever just fixing cars, teaching me how to drive, telling me about plants or making jam. He was just looking after us in the only way he knew how. I'll miss knowing that no matter what went wrong, Uncle Eoin was only ever a phone call away. He was always there when I needed him. I know so many other people here today could say exactly the same. I couldn't have asked for a better uncle. I love you, Uncle Eoin. Thanks for everything.
Well done, Aifric. He's beaming down with pride on you. And he'll definitely watch the wheel the next time for you on the side of the road. I now invite first cousin Fiona to speak about the family history. Is Fiona here?
I think a lot has been said, and the history of Eoin and our connection to Glenaa has all been explained. Very, very proud O'Donoghue on both sides. His own dad was Donohue with 3 zeros, Donohoe. We're Ghue, but Ue. I think he carried both very proudly, and the fact he grew up here in Killarney connected him very strongly to this Donoghue side, but he carried both. You've heard a number of people mention Glenaa, where Auntie May was born and my own father was born. That was a very important place for Eoin. It's a very important place for lots of us. And it was lovely the way he passed that on to his own children. It was always lovely to see Eoin. He symbolised the O'Donoghue and that lovely wild streak that runs through a good few of us. He stood for it and he nurtured it. And for me, he represented that earthiness that I wasn't frightened of embracing, because I had seen it in my cousin before me, and that I knew was true to my core. I don't think I really don't want to say any more. I think what has been said has been so beautiful. But we will miss him, and he stood for everything that was natural and that was beautiful.
Well done, Fiona. My maiden name is O'Donoghue, so I'm also in your tribe. I won't go into the spelling of it. I'd like now to invite Tim O'Donoghue to come forward.
Thank you. Hi guys, I've been asked by the family, the cousins, to say a few words here. I'm gutted, to say the least. I'm going to start by, I don't know if this has ever happened, but I'd like a request from Sam and Ina. If you knew the Waterboys' Strange Boat, you don't know. Maybe sometime during the day we can pull it up. I think it's a beautiful song and it kind of encapsulates Eoin. So anyway, bear with me guys for a couple of minutes. May our great cousin Eoin rest in peace. He's one I feel who had more to give, and that I'm certain of. I suppose taken at 67, when you're Oisín's or River's age there, you think nothing of it, but I'm going to be 60 this year, and you just think about 67, like he was a young 67, and like you just thought he was going to live forever. Well, I was sitting in the queue yesterday with where Oisín is there, or Caolan, and I was sitting next to my cousin Owen, or my cousin Kevin, and we were talking away when we had a couple of seconds here and there during the queue, and he turned to me, he goes, "Did Owen ever buy anything new?" And I said to myself, is that a way to sum up that man? We had so many people. Johnny tells the amount of people who've called him. Sean Murphy, I'm kind of going off script, but Sean Murphy called, and he said, do you know when I got the pub in my name in 1990, he said, I called on. He said, I want to do it in old style. And he said, I called on, and he said, there's a crowd above in Donegal with pitch pine, they're ripping out a building, and we'll get it down. So Sean was in the mental hospital at that time, and he said, Liam and Owen started building the bar from scratch above in Maze and Park Road. And Sean said every day he'd come out of St. Finian's and he'd rush out to Park Road to see what he'd made every day. And that's his pride and joy, the pub and what you guys did. Owen was proud of his family and his heritage, and he's extremely proud of his grandparents, his grandmother, and his mother coming from Glenagh, as you already heard. He was a man of the land. And he was very, very, he found Killarney so special. And he had a way about getting into a little disagreement with him. If he was any bigger, when you got into a disagreement with him, you'd be half afraid of him. I remember one time we have a self-catering place, and we had this German fella told me about Gleninch-a-Quin. We came back from Chicago over 20 years ago, and a German, as they do, told me about Gleninch-a-Quin. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's in the Beara Peninsula, magical place, like something out of Lord of the Rings with a waterfall and everything. So I was talking to him, and he said, I know it. I said, it's great that these Germans can find these places, and I said, it'd be fantastic, if they keep going with the fronted homies and opening all up. He was like a pressure cooker. He nearly lost his head. He was irate and so animated. He says, are you mad? He says, there should be nobody left in there. And he said, he went so far to say that the national park should be shut down and should only be kept for the locals. No tourists should be left in there. It's like unbelievable this man is. Anyway. He always kind of made great conversation, stoked curiosity, and evoked emotions. Agree with him or not, you had to respect his take on things. In my honest opinion, he was truly one of a kind. I remember when he bought Knockeenduff, how proud he was. I think it was 22 grand. I actually was back from America at that time as well, and he roped me in to do with the wiring. And he was working on the stairs in one part of the house. I was up in the attic. It was like a death trap. But he didn't mind. He said, just keep going and do a bit of wiring. I remember Liam was out in the workshop cutting something out of a big slab of wood or something. It was just a magical place up there, and any time we went up, it was just wonderful. He loved the homestead, the workshop, scavenging for bargains. If you needed anything, an old door or an old bit of a cabinet or anything, he'd have it up there, and you go into the shed and he'd be down in some corner like a cat and trying to pull something out for you. It was amazing. It was an unbelievable retreat he made for himself up there, and the haven he built. One man in his castle. For me, it's as simple as that. He was a simple man. But it's a sad occasion, guys, and I don't want to sugarcoat everything. We have to take a moment about how tragic it is, how sobering this occasion is, to lose somebody to suicide. I was just on holidays with my family, and we were sitting around the table. There was 26 of us, and they just asked me to say a few words before we ate. And I said, guys, we have bad days and we have good days. I said, this is a wonderful day for us. And I said, we need to enjoy it. I said, but that was less than 2 weeks ago. And today, guys, is a terrible, terrible day. And we have to accept it for what it is. It's just so sad. And we miss him. Our family is devastated. The people closest to him have been left shaken to the core, asking questions. What could I do? What could I have done? We cannot imagine how Owen felt in his last days, his last hours, his last minutes, his last lonely walk to the shed where he took his last breath. How desperate he must have felt. Our hearts bleed for him. We do not come into this world alone, and we should not leave it alone. But today he has left us. So what I'd like to say to every person here in this room, if just one person can hear, if you ever cross paths with a man so kind, so gentle and so thoughtful as our cousin Owen, perhaps you might stop and give him some time. Perhaps you might find room in your heart for reconciliation and humanity. One who may be vulnerable, isolated, wounded, broken or beaten, and beyond hope. Perhaps you might come to one's rescue. Think of him as a bird with a broken wing who needed gentle nursing, hope and time to recover. God knows you just might be able to make a difference to that person. I'm just going to finish with what I started and then just a couple of lines from W.B. Yeats, made famous by Mike Scott. May our great cousin Owen, R.I.P., we who had more to give, I'm certain of this. And now there's just a couple of words. Come away, the human child. Come away, the human child, to the waters and the wild. For the world is more full of weeping than we can understand. For the world is more full of weeping than we can understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Timmy. A powerful message. And I think we all reiterate that this room is full. Here today, we've all stopped in our tracks to do something to remember Owen. And let's make all a private commitment to each other that we will be there and look out for one another in the days and weeks ahead. Lisa is now going to perform for us.
A storm creep when you're far away from the home you'll soon be leaving. Takes many's the time by night and day. But your heart will be sorely grieving, for the stranger's land may be bright and fair, and rich in its treasures golden. You'll pay, I know, for the long, long ago, and the one that never a storm of grief in the stranger's land. There's plenty of wailing and wailing. Though gems adorn the grave and the ground, there are faces that hunger here. For the road may be tiresome and hard to tread, and the lights of their cities blind you. Oh, turn a storm to Erin's shore, and the ones that you leave behind you. A storm creeps when the evening's mist over mountain and meadow is falling. Oh, turn the storm, and then you listen, and maybe somebody speedy kind. Arun, won't you come back soon to the ones who will always love you.
Well done, Lisa, that was beautiful. I'm now going to read words sent from Mella. My name is Jasmine Mella Midnight, and Owen was my godfather. It's hard to believe that he's really gone. Everything I can say feels cliche, but the truth is Owen and Edwina changed the course of my life. First, when I was a baby, and later when I was a temperate teen fleeing an unstable home life. My very first clear memory of my time with them is of staggering into the kitchen, jet-lagged and bleary-eyed, hunting caffeine, only to be met by Owen, who enthusiastically whisked me off to watch the neighbours' cow give birth. They took me in when I had nowhere to go and made me part of their family. I was a small, prickly, problematic stranger, but for all that I never once felt unwelcome. I'd had very few positive male role models in my life, and Owen was a revelation. Here was a man who was neither creep, nor deadbeat, nor asshole, a man who lived his values and did right by his people. After knowing him, I could no longer doubt that good men did not exist. Through him and Edwina, I learnt about love that was patient, tender, enduring, and joyful. Love that was a feeling, an action, and a choice. Love that brought comfort instead of pain. When I wake up early and I see my partner sleeping beside me, I owe that happiness to my godparents. I had to choose a man that embodied the same goodness I saw in Owen. He had a magical bookshelf full of stories and vinyl collection that filled the house with song. He nursed me through my first hangover. I remember him telling me I'd be in trouble tomorrow, but for now, just drink water and sleep it off. He showed me how to ground myself with my hands in the earth, to plant things and help them grow. He showed me how to cut turf, saying that I certainly burned enough of it. He showed me how to dig potatoes, and I've had some of my garden ever since. I'm so very grateful for his wit, his wisdom, and his warmth. He was so bright. He made more of a difference in my life than he probably ever knew. He owed me nothing, yet showed me the whole world. Owen, it breaks my heart that you will never get to meet my partner, that you won't be there to laugh and dance at our wedding, that you will never get to again sit down with a cup of tea and record and talk about life, the universe and everything. But I am so lucky to have known you. In your passing, I found the answer to the question, is it better to have loved and lost or to have never loved at all? It's better. Losing you hurts like a sucker punch to the solar plexus, but it's better than never having known you. Owen, I know I didn't say this enough, but I'm so grateful that you were part of my life. I love you very much, and I carry a piece of your light with me always, and I will miss you. I now invite Gary, Breda, and Liam to come forward, please.
It's been hard to find the words over the last few days because Owen meant so much to me. I've had some great role models in my life. Most of them taught me how to be tough. And Owen taught me how to be gentle. He never taught me with words. He taught me by the way he lived. He gave people his time. He listened, and he had a way of making everyone feel welcome. One of my favourite things to do was to call over to see him with the boys. We'd ring and ask if he was at home, and before long, we'd be on our way. We'd only ever planned to stay for a short while, but somehow we'd always end up there for hours. There was just something about spending time with Eoin. You always went home feeling a little lighter than when you arrived. The boys loved every minute they spent with him, and so did we. That was Eoin's gift. He made people feel at ease. He made people feel valued, and somehow you always went home feeling a little lighter than when you arrived. He changed the way I think about what it means to be a good man, and more importantly, the kind of father I want to be to my two boys. Thank you, Eoin, for your friendship, your example, and everything you taught me. We'll miss you very much.
Thank you. I've written a few words for Eoin, a man I considered a friend of mine, but I'd like to open first of all with a short piece taken from Vespers by another late O'Donoghue, John O'Donohue, and his book Benedictus. After the day's frenzy, may the heart grow still, gracious in thought for all the day brought, surprises that dawn could never have dreamed, the blue silence that came to still the mind, the quiver of mystery at the edge of a glimpse, the golden echoes of worlds behind voices. Happiest outside with the elements, Eoin, you dug the earth to sow, plant and harvest a creative and abundant life. You worked the bog to bring turf home, all the while scaling telegraph poles and skillfully crafting wood. You built great, big bonfires. Sparkling flames rose high in the air. Later, gathering as embers glowed, smoky-eyed, we warmed song and story late into night. Your love of music was infectious. In pubs and barns and parlours, floorboards pounded to heady African beats, and you listened, soul-filled and reverent, when music played live to you. Around the kitchen table, the intrigue of the day was debated, discussed, deliberated, and oh, how you loved to dive into the history of a thing. We'd often find consensus, or you might leap out of the chair, disappear, return with a book, and another differing perspective. And there was no leaving empty-handed. A few eggs, new potatoes, a swede, greens from the tunnel, or rhubarb and apples from the garden. You made bread for a while, delightfully experimenting with the processes, and we enjoyed it, slathered in butter and jam. I could ramble on, and more memories will surely flow in as the time goes by. But I'm here to say thank you, Go raibh míle, Eoin. Thank you for your welcome, your warmth, your hospitality, your intelligence and good humour. Thank you for the laughter, for these memories, and thank you for your presence in my life. Slán agus Bella.
Thank you, Brita. I now invite a very close and dear friend that probably knew him best, is in many ways, I'd be watching out now because he's all around you.
Yeah, I was a good friend of Eoin's for a long time. We mucked around a lot together. As one person said to me there recently about him, was the man bad at anything? No, he wasn't good at everything, okay. I know this is the kingdom, okay, he wasn't great at Gaelic football. But everything else, okay, the man could do and turn his hand to. Now, we've heard so many, you get an idea of the man. The generosity, the warmth, particularly the generosity, okay, and the help he gave to people. He was so talented, and I'm just going to tell a story now about his last job, really. Now, this was his magnus opus, okay. Now, he loved Latin, and this was it for him. A few weeks ago there, we met up, okay. He told me this was the best thing he'd ever made in his life, okay, art-wise. Now, I like to think myself that I inspired him a small bit along the way to creating this beautiful piece. And the piece, as you've seen it up on the screen there, is a pond, okay. It was the last job that he fully completed. Now, as I said, I like to think that I was inspiration. I had a pond before him. Even though, hold it, okay. My daughter Mika would refer to my effort as the puddle. Okay. So there was no comparison, but I do like to think that that there was some part of me in the creation of that pond. Now, when he told me he was making it, like, we were very interested. I had a bit of knowledge. We were just chatting. Of course, Owen researched things down to the death. Okay. You know, he was just delve into it. Now, the first thing he did was he mapped it out. Okay. And it was, as you saw from the pictures there up on the screen, like, it was quite sizable, really. So I'm saying, well, when you're going to get in the digger? Oh, I'm not. Well, are you going to, I said, don't tell me now you're going to dig it up by hand. I will. And he loved digging, okay? I mean, I'm there like throwing my eyes up to heaven kind of going, Owen, there would be epics, and there probably will be, written about the creation of this pond. It took him 1.5 years, okay? And digging. I would go down that. I don't think I lifted a shovel. I was just I was flabbergasted, okay? And, you know, it was just too much for me, all right? 1 year, he dug it out by hand, piece by piece. Now, the one thing by this pond was, it had aspects of all of Owen, okay? The digging, okay? The plant life around it. You know, it was kind of based on a kind of Japanese kind of thing and the reflection on water. So he built what he used to call the bus shelter at the end of it, you know, in one of his, in Bishop's Pine. There was elements of stained glass in it, and there was the most beautiful stone wall, which was his other great passion around the place, okay. At the end of his days, okay, he did take a lot of solace, okay, from going down there to sit. And it was a kind of a source of peace to him, okay. So, as I said, it was the best thing that he ever made. Anyway, it's just a few words. You are gone, I am here, to pastures far away. I miss you, my friend, my mentor, my brother. Your days measured by the seasons, spring to winter, the planting of the potato, the bringing home of the turf, the passing of our summer. Once we sat side by side on the beach back in Bentry. We talked about our friendship, life and loves. We watched the ebbing of the tide. We agreed one of us would shoulder the other. Now the burden falls on me to take you to your final place, where you shall lay in sweet repose, with a smile upon your face, knowing you have done your best. No more toiling, no more digging. This is the time to sling your hammock, close your eyes and rest.
Won't you bear it in mind? Love is a lesson to learn in a lifetime. Please, won't you bear it in mind with me? You know that I love you true. You never talk dirty behind my back, but I know there are those who do. Won't you please, won't you please, won't you bear it in mind? Love is a lesson to learn in a lifetime. Please, won't you please, bear it in mind for me. May you never lay your head down without a hand to hold. May you never make your bed out in the cold.
Thank you guys, and thank you Liam. As we prepare to say our final goodbye to Owen today, I hope each of you leaves here carrying something far greater than today's sadness. We have heard stories that made us smile, stories that made us laugh, stories that reminded us just how wonderfully unique Owen was. We have listened to the music that spoke to his soul, admired the symbols that reflected the many passions of his life, and witnessed the deep love that surrounded him, witnessed here by you all. We remember a man who loved the mountains, a man who would lose himself in history, music and books, a gifted craftsman whose hands created beautiful things. We have celebrated a life that was rich in curiosity, music, adventure, and friendship. There is one thought I'd like to leave you with today, something that was shared with me a number of years ago and has stayed with me ever since. Every one of us is traveling this journey of life for the very first time. None of us have walked this road before. None of us has all the answers, and none of us gets everything right. We are all doing the best we can with the tools and lessons we got along the way. When you remember that, perhaps we become a little kinder and gentler to ourselves, which in turn a little kinder towards those we meet along the way. Grief asks something different of each of us. There is no right way to carry it, no timetable for it, and no single path through it. So in the days and weeks ahead, allow yourselves the space to grieve in your own way, at your own pace. Today we simply say thank you. Thank you to Owen for the life you lived and the love you gave. Thank you for the lessons you taught without ever realizing you were teaching them. And thank you for leaving this world a lot richer because you were part of it. May you now find peace on your final journey. Rest peacefully, Owen, and light the path for everyone in this room who loved you dearly. Before we listen to our final piece of music and accompany Owen on his final journey to his resting place in Aghadoe, where he'll be reunited with his beloved parents, I now invite those standing in the wings who would like to sympathise with the family to come forward.
I was trying because I've done ceremonies and images and weddings.
Well, there is yeah, there's a kind of open section there when you come in. Well, there's a high seat as well. So the other part where we play the table, we kind of it's a bit awkward where we play, it's not really set. Well, also the That's the same.
Okay, guys. Hello there, excuse me. Okay, guys, thank you. Unfortunately, usually when I talk, people stop. Well, at home anyway. We will now bring Owen to his resting place. And together, we're all united in love. Thank you.
Say Malek Magilamar, say Mahe Sir Gilamar, Suan Shane, the Uras Fain, or Quick again Magilamar. Bim Shabuan, Airport Gaklo. E kriga cross e turn and your Mar squila gwyn an boca bio Is na richter tourish get ma bron Is say ma live ma gilla mar Is say ma hey sir gilla mar Soon na shame Ni uras fein, o quick again magilamar. Is say malek magilamar. Is say mahe sir gilamar. Soon na shame, ni uras fein, o quick again magilamar.